Hello guys, my name is Michael, and we are continuing with last tutorial about GTK entry. I mean, we were going to talk in the future about entries, but in another matter, and which at that point should be for you almost clear about what we are talking about and so on, and maybe there will be some new things which you will learn, but until then this is the last tutorial. So now we are going to talk a little bit about new things like properties. You remember what I said? When you search a widget and you come here, you have this part here where it's signals, properties, implemented interface, description, stop, and so on. Now if you go here to the properties part, you see all a bunch of properties. These things you can apply them to your widget. Of course there are properties which are not here, but you can apply them too, but we are not talking now. Anyway, what I'm going to talk about, it is about properties which belongs to GtkEntry. But before we talk about properties, let's take a short brief about what we learn. So as you can see here, we have a lot of functions. These functions we are using in our tutorials about entry, which are quite a lot of them. So now just imagine yourself what will be happening if you copy this here, all this bunch of functions, and you throw them here. I mean, your program probably looks like this, which I'm sure is not something which you like it. You see, me for example, I'm sure I don't like these things here, because just calling a function just calling a function after another function and after another function and after another function and so on, it is boring. It's something like a bash scripting or something. We are not going to do this. So for this we are saved. There is a thing which, like I already said, it's called properties, and the properties here you can set them in the same manner how you set it here, which means you can change things like we already learned. For example, the max length, let's say visibility or editable or invisible char or whatever, things which we use here. How about if you use them only in one function? I mean, I'm not talking about creating wherever here a function and then inside this function I don't know, you put all these big chunks. No, I'm not talking about this. No. I'm talking about the function, and this function, it is called GObject set. Maybe you heard about it. If not, we are going to talk right now about it. So let's see what the manual said. But before we search this property, this function, I want to tell you that there is another function which is called GTK object set property. I'm not going to use this function because this function takes a lot of work, and this means we need to talk about a lot of G value, how you create a G value and so on. And after you're done with this here, just remember, just type this function name and then click on the G value here, and you will be sent here, and here they provide you a way about how you should work with this, which is quite complicated. But okay, once that you work with it, you will notice that it's not that complicated, but probably you will not use it, or at least it will be not so often. But even they said somewhere here, I think they said no, they don't mention well, I don't know, I was sure that they mentioned, maybe I was reading another part, whatever, that there is a faster way to work with this, and this means if you are calling the function which I want to introduce you today, which is GObject set, this function is very simple. Returns void, takes at least, says here, at least 2 parameters, or let me say at least 3 parameters, because here says a value for the first property followed optionally by more names values pairs followed by null. This means this function, once that you call it and you set something, just remember the last parameter should always be null. Okay, so the first one is the object, the second one is the name of the first property to set, and then is the value, of course, the next one, and the last one it will be the null. Okay, so that being said, let's say let's make some changes here. So object set. Okay, so this means we are setting some properties to our object. So this means the first object is our entry, and now comes the funny part. So let's say let's use I don't know the property which I can mass length. Okay, let's use this one first. So this means this is the property, and this is after you set the property you set its length. So in this example we are putting 8 and then null, how the manual says. So basically sorry, this is the way how you call this function. Maybe it's not that interesting because you can call GtkEntry set max length, which does the same thing. I will run the program now. Let's see what happens. As you can see, I can 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 is not working because only 8 characters is. So basically this does this function. Now let's move to another property. Let's take visibility right here. Okay, so I will okay, visibility, I will set it to false. Okay, now watch. I run the program, I will type something, and bam, the visibility is gone. So this means we just called 2 functions in one function. If you just call it, this means this is the way how you work with the properties. Of course, now because we are working with the visibility, we can work with invisible char. So by calling this property and set it to a default one is the star says here, and where we will set it. So now watch, invisible char, and then the char will be our star, and I run the program now, and as you can see, now when I run the program the stars are there, it's working fine. I know what we can edit table because I already we're here. This means we can set edit table to true or false. So this means if for example now I will set it to false, we cannot type anymore here. Watch, you see, I cannot type anymore because I set it to false. I put it back to true now. I just want to show you has frame, for example. Here is another good one. You remember when you run the program and you see this border here, the frame. I told you that some of you don't want to have it, so that's just a guess. I'm not sure, so I will run this property now with false. Has frame to I put it to false. You see, it's gone. The border there is gone. It's not there anymore. I put it back to true because I like it now to be there. And of course we are talking about icons, so let's take the secondary icon name this time, and I will throw it over here, and then the name will be, I don't know, let's take the one which we already used, so media seek forward. I told you about icons and the way you set them, so we are not going to talk now. Now I run the program, and as you can see, the icon is there, so works fine. And of course, because we work with this, we can set its sensitivity to false, which means you cannot work with this anymore. Okay, not semicolon, sorry guys. And basically this, you see, it's off, it's done. So this means putting false, you cannot interact with it. The settings happens with the icon activatable. So if I change it, for example, with this one, let me go back and I put it to false, will be basically the same thing like the other one. You see, it's not working, and then I put it back to true, and now you see my pointer is there. One thing is very important, you cannot work with both. So this means once that you set the sensitivity, where was that? Let me search it again. Let me search sensitivity icon there. Once that you set the icon activable to true, and then you set here to false, this thing is not matter anymore. Watch. Now I set it to false. You see, it is false. If I set this to true, to false, and I set this to true, the same thing, because the last one was it is true. The icon activatable, it's not there. You see, it is false. So just remember that the way you are working with it, probably you will working with secondary icon activable, or the first one, I don't know which you primary, I'm sorry, which you want to set it. The same thing happens with placeholder and so on. So basically this is what is about properties and what's the story with these properties here, because every time when you type a widget, GTK button for example, and then you go to its reference, you see here a lot of things like has functions, has properties. You see those properties here? Those properties is property which I think most of them they have a setters, but there are properties which they not. So this means you can call the function, or you can set it with your GTK object set property, which I told you it's a little bit complicated, or the easy part GtkEntry set, which is the nice and clear or nice and clean function to set those properties for your style properties, which are also properties. So it's basically the same. And signals, we are talking about that. Types and values, I explained to you. Object here, see this we were going to talk a little bit later more, but the thing is it is only that this here belongs to this one, to this one, to this, and so on. So all of this belongs to Go object. So this means when you work with GTK scale button, basically you can work with all the properties and signals. And here you have your description about which I was talking about in the at the beginning of these tutorials. So basically when you come to this part here, after you find your widget, you remember that signals are there, and we talk about them, why and how and where you can use them, and then styles and properties and so on. We talked about them today, so now you know what's properties, know how to you work, and you need to work with them, and so on. So that being said, watch how the difference is now. It's less code, it's nice and clear, and even if it's not less code, it should not, but you can change it. For example, you can put in one line two of them, which basically make it much nicer or whatever. It's your decision, the way you are working with GObject sect. The important thing is that this function is very important and helps you in a lot of different things, but now at this point it is important for you to know that with the help of this function you set to this object which is entry some properties, and these properties which you are setting here are properties which makes change to the widget which you are working with. Okay, so that being said, thank you guys for watching, and until next time, please subscribe and share it with your friends, because this is why we are here, to learn GTK3 and to understand this powerful library better than other videos. Because if you are searching on YouTube, I was searching also, and I saw that there are a couple tutorials, they are explaining some things there, but if you really want to start with GTK3, you need to understand the complicated things also. So this means this is the reason why we cover it, let's say properties, signals, events, and so on, because they are so important, and if you don't understand them, then you have a big problem. But now I'm sure you understand them, you know how to work with them, and now it will be much easier for you to proceed to the next videos which are coming. And of course I will have a bonus video which is coming in the next one, which we are going to put together a lot of information which we learned until now, and we'll create something. I don't know, I will think about something, and then after that, after the bonus video is done, we move on with the next widgets, because maybe you notice we are doing here like, I don't know, 8-9 hours, if I'm guessing, like 400 minutes or 500 minutes of tutorials, and the only thing which you learn is how do you create a window, how you create a button, a label, and an entry. So as you can see, it is a lot of work, but it has to be, because if it's not, then you will never understand this powerful library. The documentation, I said at the beginning, and I said also now, it is very complicated. If you start for yourself, you know that there are not so many books outside, at least not with GTK3, or at least I don't think there are any in C, maybe in other languages, but me, I'm working only with C, so I don't want to work with language bindings just because I like another language. So GTK comes from C. C is my favorite language, so it's a powerful, and together with glib, glib, you see that you can use it in other operating systems. Okay, so again, that being said, thank you guys for watching, and if you like it, I hope you like it, because my time is not so I do not have so much time, so I'm trying to coming every day with a video or something to help you to learn this like I said, powerful library. And anyway, it is important that you know that I'm willing to help you to understand this library and the way you can create powerful programs with the help of GTK. Okay, thanks guys. Again, thank you guys for watching, and please subscribe, share with your friends, and until next time, see you guys.